There is a new film out hoping to explore race and its effects on society. It's called Because They Believed, and it documents the experiences of athletes and coaches who took part in all kinds of sports clubs, collegiate and professional sports throughout the civil rights movement of the late 40s, 50s, and 60s. To learn more about the film, we are joined by one of the producers, who's also the founder of Oakland's Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. How are you today?
I'm doing just great. Thank you for asking.
And tell me a little bit about this film and kind of the heart of it.
Basically, there's a book that a company has, Companion, that came out about 6 months ago. It's called In the Shadow of Obscurity, but it doesn't have the same subjects in the movie. The movie, Because They Believed, was developed to explore systemic racism in America and the struggles and trials and tribulations that Black and brown athletes had to endure to reach their goal.
What impressed you most? I mean, can you tell me a little bit about one in particular story that really touched home for you?
Well, for me personally, they all touched home for me because I lived it myself, and so I can relate to each and every one of them. And I carefully chosen every subject and did all the interviews because I wanted to get a better feel about how they felt about racism in their own words and their own delivery. So I like them all.
It really gives me chills just seeing some of the images that we're showing, and you can kind of understand and sympathize and empathize in regards to how difficult struggles were. And they continue to be challenging, but I would imagine years ago when there was so much more racism that they faced, that it was incredibly difficult.
They expressed that clearly and distinctly in the movie. Each of these persons are members of my Hall of Fame, so I've known them for years. I know of their trials and tribulations. It was important to me to draw from them their personal feelings. So in this film, they talk about things that they told me that they had never shared before, and that's what I really wanted to come from it. I wanted the real raw feeling that they had when they experienced this, and so consequently, that is reflected in the movie. And when we had the screening on Wednesday night, it received rave reviews, and I asked them afterwards how they feel about it, and each one of them had a different opinion about the subjects, but they're all on pretty much the same level about the same topic.
Is there any story that you could share? I know that each is unique and each is fascinating and inspirational in its own way. Is there something you could share with us?
I think the one that seemed to resonate with most people was the fact that they were not aware that John Collis's wife took her life as a result of the 1968 fist. And he had not shared that before, according to him. And I think another one would have been Billy Mills, because Billy Mills, when he won the 10,000 gold in 1964 in Tokyo, ironically Tokyo right now, they didn't know who he was. And they would not give him shoes because they said it was reserved for winners. I think his story is really, really exciting. It came to excite people, and of course, Dr. Carnegie and hockey. That was a riveting show as well.
It really is profound, especially when you listen to the stories. I mean, the Olympics are always a time where we hear the backstory of what some of these athletes have gone through to get to the places that they are. But then you add all of these different layers and you hear some of the consequences of actions that happened so long ago that it really does sink into your heart.
You're absolutely true. And I specifically chose July 21st for the screening because the Olympics were going to be 48 hours later. And the IOC, as most people know, have prohibited any kind of a protest, period. And I thought there would be a good time to show this movie and maybe to inform them of why there are protests, quite frankly, and why they will not go away until a lot of these issues have been resolved. And I think it's time for America to sit down and talk about black and brown athletes and others for that matter, and to realize that I'm hoping this movie will help shine light on that subject and illuminate through these athletes and what they had to go through.
Who would you like to see this movie? Would you like this to be something that's played in schools? Would you like this to be out there at libraries or, you know, along those lines so that the widest audience could see it?
Yes, I think now the book, I'll talk briefly about the book. The book is definitely has already moved over to the academic community. We're getting calls from a number of school districts and university junior colleges to have the book read at the school, and that's assigned at school. That's fine. The movie itself, as you suggested, is actually for everyone from 8 to 100, as long as they can understand the impact of racism and realize that racism continues to exist and how it's important for all of us, every person, to make an effort to make that change. We need love now. We don't need hate. So what I tried to do in this film was to have persons who are being on the news every day, on television, newspapers, etc. That's the Asian American, Native Americans, African Americans, Jewish Americans, as well as Hispanic Americans. They're all depicted in this movie, and they all tell a story of why they endured and why it was important for them to succeed, although they had to face and fight racism on a daily basis.
Where did the title come from?
That's a good question. 3 or 4 of them, when I was interviewing them, I asked them, I said, now you're in an individual sport. It's not a team sport. So what motivated you to move forward and achieve your goal? How were you able to achieve that? He said, because I believed. So that was the title, Because They Believed.
I love that. Do you think that this is something that, you know, could get even wider viewership by being picked up on one of the cables? You know, so many people stream, you know, have you been approached by anyone like that?
Actually, I have delayed that until we had the screening. And now after the screening, and I have an idea of what we really have, and now we're ready to explore the next level. Ironically, yesterday, the Gordon Parks Film Festival out of Kansas phoned and wanted to know if I would submit my film to their festival. That would be the first festival. From that, there would be several other festivals. Then we'll go from there to television, and ultimately, I think this film will be shown on major networks all over, because it is that kind. Not because I'm the producer, but because of the content and because of the necessity for America to see films like this right now. Some of the comments I received back was that everybody pretty much said, "I got an education. I learned something from this film," and 80% of them that gave this was white. So that told me we were going in the right direction. This is for America, all ethnicities, but we're hoping that the white race will realize that these folks have made major contributions to American sports and in society in general. And we need to get past the hate.
That is amazing. Well, I am glad that you believed in bringing this film to our eyes so that we can be better educated, and we appreciate your labor of love. Thank you for joining us today.
I want to thank you so much. KRON is the best.
Oh, thank you very much.